James Michel sat in his expansive corner office, the walls lined with gleaming awards and luxurious furnishings that symbolized his success. The sweeping view of New York's skyline, which once filled him with pride, now seemed to mock him with its emptiness. On his desk lay the latest employee satisfaction report, its grim figures glaring up at him. His brow furrowed in disbelief. How could things have unraveled so badly under his watch without him noticing? A staggering 15% drop in employee satisfaction had plagued one of his New York offices for 3 consecutive months. Alongside this troubling statistic were mounting complaints of a toxic work culture, blatant favoritism, and whispers of potential discrimination. These glaring issues left James no choice but to take decisive action. He resolved to step out of his role as CEO of Technology Feature and into the shoes of those on the front lines of his company. Disguising himself as a receptionist, he hoped to uncover the truth from a perspective he had never experienced. It was a bold move, fraught with risks. James knew full well that being discovered could lead to public humiliation and erode the fragile trust within his company. Yet, as he donned a standard-issue uniform and adjusted a fake mustache in the mirror, a flicker of hope lit within him. Perhaps this would be the turning point he so desperately needed. Gone were James's sharp suits and polished leather shoes, the emblems of his authority. In their place, he wore scuffed loafers and an ill-fitting uniform, blending into the crowd as just another employee. As he stepped into the building he had built from the ground up, a mix of anxiety and anticipation coursed through him. This was his creation, his vision, yet today, he was a stranger within its walls. The hum of the front desk soon swallowed him whole. The constant ringing of phones and the steady stream of visitors felt alien to James, who had grown accustomed to strategic meetings and high-level decision-making. Glancing at his reflection in the lobby's glass doors, he barely recognized himself. The commanding presence of a CEO was replaced by a man grappling with doubt and unfamiliarity. No one acknowledged him. To them, he was invisible. James's first task managing the bustling front desk proved more daunting than he anticipated. While juggling phone calls and visitor inquiries, his ears caught a conversation between 2 senior managers lingering nearby. "Did you see the email about the new efficiency measures?" one asked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Of course. Just what we needed, more work for less pay. The customer service team is already at their breaking point." "Not our problem. Let HR deal with the complaints. We have more important things to handle," the other replied nonchalantly. Their dismissive words hit James like a punch to the gut. Had he inadvertently fostered an environment where such apathy toward employees was acceptable? As the managers walked away, blissfully unaware of his true identity, James felt a knot of unease tighten in his stomach. The day dragged on, each task a stark reminder of how out of touch James had become with the realities of his employees. The switchboard seemed to conspire against him, and the steady flow of visitors left him scrambling to keep up. But the physical strain paled in comparison to the emotional toll. It was painfully clear how disconnected his management team had become from the workforce they were meant to lead. In the break room, as James refilled a pot of coffee, another harsh reality unfolded. A group of managers gathered nearby, their voices tinged with frustration and disdain. They complained about the company's challenges and mocked the struggles of lower-level staff. One even hurled expletives toward the customer service team, drawing laughter from the others. A wave of shame and anger swept over James. These were the individuals he had entrusted to uphold the company's values, leaders he had believed would guide with compassion and integrity. Instead, they exuded arrogance and indifference, deepening the rift between them and the employees who kept the company afloat. Later that day, James found solace in an unexpected ally, Chloe, a veteran receptionist who had witnessed it all. Patient and kind, she guided him through his new role, her seasoned demeanor offering a rare moment of clarity. As they chatted during a break, she gave him a knowing smile and said, "It's just a job to them. Don't expect anyone up there to notice us. We're invisible to their world." Her words struck James with brutal honesty. He had always prided himself on building a company where every voice mattered. Yet, Chloe's observation painted a starkly different picture, one of neglect and disconnection. By the end of the day, James's body ached from the unfamiliar demands of the job. But the real exhaustion weighed on his mind. Peeling off the uniform, he stared at his reflection in the mirror. What he saw was not just a weary man but a leader grappling with the harsh truth the company he had so lovingly built was now a shadow of the vision he had once held dear. James Michel embarked on his undercover mission with a clear purpose to uncover the roots of his company's struggles and identify opportunities for change. Yet, as the days unfolded, he unearthed that something far darker than he had anticipated, a culture of disrespect and elitism that struck at the heart of technology feature, the very organization he had painstakingly built. The following morning, James resumed his role as a receptionist, hoping for a different perspective and perhaps a glimmer of positivity. The frenetic pace of the office floor stood in stark contrast to the calm, organized environment of his executive suite. As he quietly observed the employees around him, one familiar face caught his attention: Sophia, a senior manager from the New York branch. James had heard glowing endorsements about her from board members. They praised her efficiency and her no-nonsense attitude, presenting her as a cornerstone of the company. But as the day unfolded, James began to notice an unsettling pattern in Sophia's behavior. She displayed an unyielding harshness toward lower-level staff, her words cutting and often laced with condescension. Her body language exuded superiority, creating an environment of intimidation. The polished professionalism she projected to higher-ups was nowhere to be found in her dealings with subordinates. The breaking point came mid-morning when Sophia approached the front desk, her expression etched with irritation. Her eyes scanned the cluttered workspace before she let out a heavy sigh of disapproval. "Is this how you're handling things?" she demanded. "I've never seen such chaos. Papers everywhere, phones ringing endlessly, and you can't even keep up. No wonder this place is falling apart. It's because you people can't even manage the basics." James froze at her words. "You people," he thought, his anger simmering beneath the surface. What did she mean by that? Her blatant disdain struck him deeply. Here was someone he had trusted with immense responsibility, yet she was openly belittling the role she deemed beneath her. As Sophia stormed away, James stood rooted to the spot, grappling with a mixture of disbelief and disappointment. Nearby, Noah, an amiable technician, exchanged a knowing glance with a colleague before offering a quiet comment: "Don't take it personally, that's just how she is." Noah's words felt like a slap in the face. The realization that such behavior was normalized within his company filled James with shame and frustration. He began to question how this toxic culture had taken root without him noticing. Throughout the day, James became increasingly attuned to the dynamics around him. He saw employees shrink in Sophia's presence, their postures defensive, their voices subdued. The atmosphere was stifling, charged with fear and resentment. How had his leadership team allowed such toxicity to flourish? James couldn't escape the gnawing guilt of his oversight. Sophia's duality became more apparent as James observed her interactions with other department heads. She was adept at maintaining a polished, professional demeanor when addressing peers or superiors. But the moment she engaged with those she deemed unimportant, her tone shifted to one of disdain. This two-faced nature was not just damaging employee morale, it was eroding the very foundation of the company's success. Amid the disheartening revelations, James began to notice the hidden strengths within his workforce. Emma, a senior accountant, and Noah, the technician, stood out. Initially, they seemed like ordinary employees, blending into the backdrop of the bustling office. But as James watched them more closely, he realized they were extraordinary. Emma was unwavering in her dedication. She was often the first to arrive and the last to leave, her focus fixed on perfecting financial reports. One evening, James overheard a conversation between Emma and a colleague. "But it's your daughter's recital tonight, isn't it?" the colleague asked, concern evident in their voice. A shadow of pain crossed Emma's face, but she responded with quiet resolve. "I'll make it up to her this weekend. These reports have to be flawless for tomorrow's board meeting." James felt a pang of guilt. How many sacrifices like this had gone unnoticed? How many times had employees like Emma been overlooked, their hard work taken for granted? Then there was Noah. A beacon of positivity, he moved from desk to desk, solving technical problems with patience and grace. But it wasn't just his technical skills that impressed James, it was his unwavering kindness. One afternoon, James witnessed Noah comforting a new intern who was on the verge of tears over a malfunctioning computer. "Don't worry," Noah said gently. "We'll figure this out together." For the next hour, Noah stayed with her, not only resolving the issue but teaching her troubleshooting techniques along the way. His compassion shone through every interaction, uplifting everyone around him. As the week wore on, James began to see Emma and Noah not just as employees but as pillars of technology feature. Yet their talents had gone unrecognized, overshadowed by a system that prioritized appearances over substance. One day, James overheard Emma confide in a coworker. "I've been passed over for promotion 3 times now," she said, frustration heavy in her voice. "It feels like no matter how hard you work, you're invisible unless you're part of the right social circle." Her words cut James to the core. He had always believed that effort and integrity should be rewarded. Yet, his company's culture seemed to stifle its brightest talents, leaving individuals like Emma and Noah in the shadows. At the end of his undercover week, James sat alone, reflecting on what he had learned. Technology feature was brimming with potential, but the systems in place were failing the very people who upheld its success. Determined to right these wrongs, James resolved to create a culture where hard work was valued, integrity was celebrated, and every voice was heard. James Michel called an urgent meeting with the board and senior management of technology feature. Entering the boardroom, he carried himself with the authority of a CEO determined to confront hard truths. The room fell silent as the team turned their attention to him, their faces a mixture of curiosity and unease. None of them were aware of the full extent of what James had uncovered during his time undercover. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," James began, his voice calm but weighted with seriousness. "I need to address some critical issues that have surfaced over the past week. I've been working undercover within our company, and what I've observed has been both alarming and deeply disappointing." He paused, letting the gravity of his words sink in. Around the table, some managers shifted uncomfortably, exchanging hesitant glances. James continued, his tone growing firmer. "Technology feature is facing a significant crisis. Employee satisfaction has plummeted by 15%, and our workplace culture has veered far from what we envisioned. Favoritism runs rampant, and hard work and talent are going unrecognized." Sophia, one of the senior managers whom James had observed closely, fidgeted in her seat. Her discomfort did not escape James's notice, but he pressed on, determined to address the issues directly. "We need to confront these problems head-on," he said, his voice steady. "During my time as a receptionist, I witnessed extraordinary dedication from employees like Emma and Noah, individuals who are giving their all but receiving little in return. Our current system is failing them, and in turn, failing the company." The room was met with a mix of reactions. Some managers attempted to justify their decisions, while others appeared genuinely concerned. James knew that the road to change would be challenging, but his resolve was unwavering. To initiate reform, James proposed a new framework for promotions and recognition, emphasizing transparency and fairness. "From now on," he explained, "employee performance and contributions will be evaluated on merit, not connections. Regular feedback mechanisms will also be introduced to give every employee a voice and a safe way to report issues." Later that evening, as James sat alone in his office, contemplating the difficult path ahead, a knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Sophia stepped in, her usually composed demeanor replaced by visible nervousness. "Mr. Michel," she began, her voice unsteady, "there's something I need to tell you. It's about the complaints and the toxic culture." James felt a surge of anticipation and dread. "Go on," he urged, maintaining a neutral expression. Sophia took a deep breath. "We've been manipulated. This isn't just about internal issues. Someone is working against us, an outsider who's been spreading misinformation and deliberately creating chaos within the company." Before James could respond, Sophia's phone buzzed. Glancing at the screen, her face turned pale. "It's happening again," she said, her voice trembling. She handed James her phone, showing a live feed from a hidden security camera in the main office. The footage was chilling. A figure clad in a black hoodie and mask moved from desk to desk, confronting employees and threatening them with their personal secrets. The figure's movements were deliberate, their intentions unmistakably malicious. "Do you recognize this person?" James asked, his mind racing. Sophia shook her head. "No, but they've been terrorizing employees, forcing them to sabotage their own work under threat of exposure." James's thoughts spun in all directions. If Sophia's claims were true, then the turmoil within technology feature wasn't solely due to internal failings. Someone was orchestrating these events from the outside. Before James could process this revelation, another knock came at the door. This time it was Thomas Parker, a distinguished investigator known for unraveling complex fraud cases. "Mr. Michel, I'm here because I received an anonymous tip," Thomas announced, his tone sharp and professional. "Your company is being sabotaged. The person behind this has extensive knowledge of your operations and is using it to sow chaos." Thomas's words deepened the mystery. James's thoughts turned to recent decisions and the subtle but disruptive patterns he had begun to notice. Who could possess both the motive and the means to execute such a scheme? Thomas opened a file, spreading out evidence on James's desk. "We've traced the sabotage to a former employee, a senior analyst who was dismissed under questionable circumstances last year. They've been holding a grudge and leveraging their knowledge to destabilize your company." A chill ran through James as the pieces began to fall into place. The analyst in question had once been entrusted with sensitive data and new technology features' inner workings intimately. "There's more," Thomas added grimly. "This individual isn't working alone. They've built a network of accomplices who are using personal information to manipulate and control employees. It's part of a larger plan to undermine your leadership and damage the company's reputation." James Michel discovered that the challenges facing technology feature ran far deeper than he had initially imagined. The company wasn't merely struggling with internal issues, it was under attack. The orchestrated chaos was designed to make the leadership appear incompetent, but the true source of the problem lay hidden beneath layers of betrayal. Partnering with Thomas Parker, a trusted investigator, James began to unravel the truth. What they found was startling. A former employee, someone James had once placed immense trust in, was behind the sabotage. This executive, fueled by resentment, had not only orchestrated the disruptions but had also enlisted others to help destabilize the company. Their ultimate goal? To tarnish James's leadership and wrest control of technology feature. The revelation ignited a series of intense legal battles and internal confrontations. James realized that addressing the external threat wasn't enough. He needed to root out the complicit behavior within his own ranks. Employees like Sophia, who had turned a blind eye to the sabotage while mistreating colleagues, could no longer remain unchecked. Determined to restore integrity, James took decisive action. He called Sophia and others involved into private meetings, presenting undeniable evidence of their misconduct. Sophia was told in no uncertain terms that her behavior, both her unkindness and her silence, was unacceptable. James emphasized that this was a workplace where respect and transparency were non-negotiable. As a consequence, Sophia and her cohort faced serious repercussions. They were suspended from their roles and required to attend specialized training sessions on professional conduct. Additionally, they were mandated to publicly apologize to their teams, acknowledging the harm they had caused. While holding those accountable for their failings, James also turned his focus to recognizing and rewarding those who had remained steadfast and hardworking during the turmoil. Emma, a senior accountant whose tireless dedication had often gone unnoticed, was among them. Her late nights and meticulous attention to detail had been instrumental in maintaining stability amid the chaos. James promoted Emma to a higher position and granted her a well-deserved raise, acknowledging the personal sacrifices she had made for the company's success. Noah, whose positivity and unwavering support had become a beacon for his co-workers, also received James's recognition. Noah was promoted to lead the I team, a role that allowed him not only a salary increase but also a seat at the decision-making table. James wanted Noah's skills and optimistic leadership to set a standard for others. To ensure such issues would never arise again, James implemented a series of sweeping changes across technology feature. Regular employee feedback sessions were introduced, providing a platform for open dialogue and the identification of problems before they could escalate. New systems for reporting concerns anonymously were established, ensuring that employees felt safe and heard. Finally, greater emphasis was placed on recognizing and rewarding hard work at every level of the organization. James also made a personal commitment to be more visible and involved within the company. He aimed to foster a workplace that was not only fair but also supportive, a place where every individual felt valued and motivated to excel. By setting this tone, James hoped to rebuild the trust that had been shaken and create an environment where success was shared by all. As he stood by the window of his office, gazing at the sprawling New York skyline, James felt a sense of relief. The weight of the past few weeks, with all their challenges and revelations, began to lift. The crisis had tested him in ways he hadn't anticipated, but it had also deepened his understanding of his role as a leader. With a renewed sense of purpose, James resolved to guide technology future with integrity, compassion, and a clearer vision for the future. Weeks passed, and the storm that had shaken technology future began to subside. The tension that once lingered in the air like a dark cloud had been replaced by an invigorating sense of purpose. After James Michel's thorough review and restructuring efforts, the company found itself on a promising path. Employees were more engaged, morale was rising, and the numbers didn't lie. Productivity had improved by an impressive 40%, and revenues soared to several $million. James, standing in the heart of the bustling office floor, felt a rare moment of pride. It wasn't the kind of pride that came from awards or accolades, but one rooted in seeing his team flourish. The space, once filled with whispered frustrations and silent resentment, now buzzed with energy and collaboration. He walked past clusters of employees working intently, exchanging ideas with newfound enthusiasm. "James, can we have a moment?" Noah, now the head of it, approached with his signature warm smile. James nodded, gesturing toward a quiet corner. "Of course, Noah. What's on your mind?" Noah shifted slightly, his hands resting on the back of a chair. "I just wanted to say, on behalf of my team, thank you. You've done more than just fix problems. You've inspired us to believe in what we're doing again. It feels like we're building something meaningful." James leaned forward, his tone genuine. "That means a lot, Noah. But the credit goes to you and your team. Your resilience kept things afloat when times were tough. I just gave a little nudge." Noah laughed softly, shaking his head. "A little nudge? James, you didn't just nudge, you rebuilt the foundation. And honestly, we're all better for it." The positive sentiment wasn't confined to Noah's department. In accounting, Emma sat at her desk, a look of quiet determination on her face as she reviewed quarterly reports. Her once overlooked diligence now had a platform, and she thrived in her new leadership role. As James passed by, she glanced up and smiled. "James," she called, motioning for him to come closer. "I just finished running the numbers for this quarter. You're going to love what you see." James picked up the report she handed him and scanned it quickly. The sharp increase in revenue brought a grin to his face. "Emma, this is phenomenal. A 40% jump in efficiency and revenue in just a few weeks. That's a testament to everyone's hard work." Emma blushed slightly but held his gaze. "It's because we finally feel like our work matters. You've shown us that every contribution counts, and that makes all the difference." Later that afternoon, James called for an informal team meeting in the break room. The room filled quickly, with employees eager to hear from their revitalized leader. Standing before them, James took a moment to soak in the scene: smiling faces, bright eyes, and the hum of optimism that hadn't been present in years. "First, let me say how proud I am of all of you," James began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "When we faced challenges a few weeks ago, it would have been easy to point fingers or give up. But instead, each of you rose to the occasion. The numbers are incredible, yes, but what I'm most proud of is the culture we've rebuilt together." From the back of the room, Chloe, the veteran receptionist, spoke up. "You've shown us what leadership should look like, James. You didn't just demand change, you rolled up your sleeves and worked alongside us. That's rare, and it's why we trust you." The room erupted in applause, and James held up his hands to quiet the group. "Thank you, Chloe, and thank all of you. This is only the beginning. Together, we're going to achieve even more." As the weeks turned into months, the changes James had implemented continued to bear fruit. Regular feedback sessions became a staple, offering employees a safe space to share ideas and concerns. Recognition programs celebrated achievements big and small, fostering an atmosphere where hard work was genuinely appreciated. One afternoon, James found himself in a meeting with Thomas Parker, the investigator who had been instrumental in uncovering the sabotage. Thomas, now a trusted advisor, leaned back in his chair with a satisfied smile. "You've turned this place around," James Thomas remarked. "When I first walked through these doors, I'll admit, I had my doubts. But what you've accomplished here is nothing short of remarkable." James nodded thoughtfully. "It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. The people here deserved better, and I couldn't let them down." Thomas raised his coffee cup in a small toast. "To leaders who don't just lead, but inspire." Despite the accolades and the upward trajectory, James remained humble. He made it a point to walk the office floor daily, connecting with employees and ensuring the culture he had worked so hard to rebuild remained intact. During one such walk, he overheard two junior employees chatting near the coffee machine. I used to dread coming into work, one admitted. But now, it's like we're part of something bigger. James has really made this place feel like a family? The other nodded in agreement. Yeah, it's not just about the work anymore, it's about the people. I've never seen leadership like his before. James didn't interrupt, but as he walked away, their words stayed with him. They were a reminder of why he had taken on the challenges that once seemed insurmountable. In the evening, as James sat in his office, the city skyline stretched out before him. The glow of the setting sun bathed the room in warm light, a fitting symbol of the new dawn that had risen over technology feature. He picked up a framed photo from his desk, a group shot taken during the company's recent retreat. Everyone was smiling, their camaraderie evident. He leaned back in his chair, reflecting on the journey. The past few months had tested him in ways he never anticipated. They had pushed him to his limits and forced him to confront uncomfortable truths about his leadership and the culture he had allowed to grow. But they had also given him the opportunity to redefine what technology feature stood for. We're just getting started, James murmured to himself, a determined smile spreading across his face. The best is yet to come. In this story of transformation and resilience, James Michel, the determined CEO of Technology Feature, faced challenges that threatened not just his company but also the trust of his employees. By going undercover and confronting uncomfortable truths, James uncovered the cracks in the company's culture: favoritism, neglect, and sabotage. Through bold leadership, he rebuilt the foundation of trust, recognized the overlooked talents of employees like Emma and Noah, and inspired his team to believe in their shared vision once again. The result? A thriving workplace where collaboration flourishes, productivity soars, and the company reaches new heights. This journey isn't just about a CEO's leadership, it's about the power of accountability, transparency, and valuing every voice in an organization. It's a reminder that no matter how challenging the obstacles, with courage and compassion, meaningful change is always possible. If this story inspired you or touched your heart, we invite you to show your support. Like this video to let us know you enjoyed the journey, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories of hope, transformation, and leadership. Share this video with your friends and family so they, too, can learn from James's experience. We'd also love to hear from you. What lessons did this story teach you? Have you ever experienced a workplace transformation like this? Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. Your perspective could inspire someone else to see the power of change in their own life. Let's keep this conversation going and build a community that uplifts and supports each other.